Krishna, Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Madhavira Vigopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi Tadaiva Sampayah Pitva Hrishyayustat Priyajanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in the end of his 10th canto commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, prays like this: My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words to be your cows, then they can produce sweet milk and give pleasure to your devotees. So tonight we'll study from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. And this is the translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It wasn't easy doing that. And Srila Prabhupada is therefore, as far as I'm concerned, the savior of the modern world. Because I myself read many editions of Bhagavad Gita, actually, before I came to ISKCON. And even though I was young, but I read many editions. There's at least a dozen editions in English. And frankly, I have to admit now that I didn't understand them. And the reason I didn't understand them is because the people who published them also didn't understand them. Neither did those who translated and commented on them. Because evam parampara praptam imam rajarshriyo viduhu. Krishna says this thing has to be accepted in disciplic succession. And within that disciplic succession, who is it who will understand? Anybody who hears? Not everybody understands. Who understands? Bhakto sime sakhatyeti rahasyam hetoruttamam. Because you're a devotee, he tells Arjuna, you can understand this. So this is the person who understands. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvataha. Krishna says, if you want to know me in truth, it is by bhakti only. There's a story about this. Everybody heard the name of Sridhar Swami, famous Bhagavatam commentator. He was said to have been a resident of Kashi and an initiate maybe of the Shankar Sampradaya, Advaita, Kevala Advaita, Mata. And he was a little bit too heavy on the bhakti side. So his commentary was a little controversial in Kashi, because if you're writing about love for Krishna in Kashi, it may not go over well. But so they decided there was some controversy. Some people saying, no, it's good. You should, we should respect this. And other people saying, no, he's not talking about Brahman and Advaita and all these Tattvamasi and all that. So they decided to put it to Lord Vishwanath for a test. How many people have been to Kashi? Yes. Have you been inside the temple and seen Kashi Vishwanath? You know, for all the glorification that we hear about Kashi Vishwanath, it's surprising it's not a very big temple. Many temples in the north, I guess, are like that, post the foreign invasions. So anyway, they put it in front of Lord Vishwanath. They shut the deity doors. From behind closed doors, what did they hear? Aham vedmi, shuko veti, vyaso veti, na veti va. What does that mean? I know. Shukdev Goswami knows. Vyas, he may know or he may not know. Sridhara sakalam veti, Sri Narasingha prasadataha. But Sridhar Swami, he knows everything by the grace of Narasingha. Some people say that his Ishtadeva was Narasingha. It would seem that way from the verses that he wrote. Other people say his guru's name was Narasingha. But either way, Sri Narasingha prasadataha, Sridharaha sakalam veti. He knows everything. So this is bhakti. Not just by great scholarship, not just by great, whatever it is that we can do for a while. Because everything that we can do, we can only do it for a while. Keep it in mind. Don't be proud of borrowed plumes. Huh? Like, sometimes your friend, teenagers especially, they like to show off because they haven't learned anything yet. Hopefully by the time you're 50 or so, you've learned something. But, the teenager gets, he borrows a friend's car and he drives around and everybody, he sees, look at me. They always want to be older than they are, isn't it? Or I should say, they always want to be older than they think. Like little children. I was talking with a little girl the other day. How old are you? 4.5. You got to add that half year in there because it matters when you're only 4. Anyway, so Sridhara Sakalam Veti and Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati, this is the purport. By devotion, you can understand this text, Bhagavad Gita. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is summarizing all of the previous teachings that he's given throughout the Gita. In which chapter? 18th chapter. Yeah, you see a lot of repetition there. What's one of the verses that you see? Krishna says it again in chapter 18. Manmana bhava mad bhakto. That's pretty much the gist of Bhagavad Gita. 4 things he asks. Madmana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru. Think of me, worship me, bow down to me, be my devotee. Simple things. Anyone can do it. But is it that anyone will do it? Well, that depends. We have our own free will by God's grace. Love means free will. Without free will, it's not love. What is it?
Force, slavery.
It's AI. Deep fake humanity. Deep fake love. So there has to be some free will. Sometimes people think that, everything is predestined. Then, does that mean I can't make any choices? No, of course you can make choices. Love has to have a choice. If there's no love that the person can love me or the person doesn't love me, then there's not love. It's just, pre-programmed, whatever. Okay, so this is bhakti, and Bhagavad Gita is about that. And here Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, we've picked a text from the 18th chapter, the conclusion, the perfection of pronunciation. It says, Madchitta sarva durgani madprasadat tarishyasi atachetvam ahankara nashrosyasi vinangshyasi. Okay, mat means of me. Chitta, being in consciousness. Sarva, all. Durgani, impediments. Mat prasadat, by my mercy. Tarishyasi, you will overcome. You will overcome. Mat, I'm sorry, Atha, but, Chet, if, Tvam, you, Ahankarat, by false ego, Nashrosyasi, do not hear, Vinangsyasi, you will be lost. The translation is, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you'll be lost. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, a person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend, who is so devotedly engaged in working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He's already under strict material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he's liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Acharya is commenting on this verse. First of all, Sridhar Swami, we mentioned already, he also wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and he tells us, someone asked me earlier today, what are these durganis, these perplexities, or what does Prabhupada translate here as a, yes. Yes, impediments. So he glosses the Sarva Durgani, Dustarani, Sangsarika Dukhani. What does that mean? Dustara. Iska matlab kya hai, Dustara? Yeah, difficult. You can't, not so easy. And Sangsarika Dukhani. Miseries of material existence. So all this stuff, that answers that question. Baladevi Dabhushan gives a different interpretation. He says it means no, he gives the same interpretation, sorry. So this is the idea. We have so many different kinds of material miseries and material problems, but these things are all overcome by Krishna's grace if we take shelter of Krishna. This is the first thing. So then he says, Sridhar Swami says, that Vipakshe Doshamaha, he is explaining in the second half of the verse, what happens if you do the opposite? Then if you don't hear me, that's Atachet Twama Hankarat Nashrosisi, so Vinangshasi. And what does Vinangshasi mean?
Will be destroyed.
You'll be destroyed. But he says Vinangshasi means that Purusharthat Prashto Bhavishyati. Purusharthat Prashto. You'll be waylaid, you'll be carried away, you'll not be able to have your Purusharthas. What does Purushartha mean? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And even above these things, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says,
Prema.
Hum Arthamahan, Prema. Love of Godhead. There's no need for dharma, there's no need for artha, there's no need for kama or moksha if you have prema. That is a fact. So this is the thing. If you don't listen to Krishna, you cannot never get this prema, and you're cheating yourself. What does Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on this verse, he says nothing. Virtually, he just says, Tata Hakim, Ata Ahad Chitta Iti. That means, he's explaining here simply what happens after that. After what? He's referring to the previous verse. Yes, so let's read it. Krishna says, Chetasa sarva karmani Mayi sanyasya matparaha Buddhi yogam upashritya Machitta satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur simply pointing out that this verse tells us, what happens after that? What happens after that? Who can answer? Yes, you'll be freed from what? By Krishna's grace, you become delivered from? Yes, sarvani, samsarika dukkani, all the miseries of material existence. So, Baldev Vidyabhushan says vinankshyasi means that swartha vibhrashto bhavishyati. Swartha. What does swarti? We don't like swartis, right? What's a swarti? Somebody who's selfish. Swartha means your own purpose, right? So he says that you can't even fulfill your own purpose if you're not surrendered to me. Why? Because if we're not doing what Krishna wants, then we're doing something other than what Krishna wants. And what are we doing?
That is regimental.
There's only two things. Either it's dharma or it's adharma. And how can you expect to have any happiness from adharma? See? So this is the problem. You cannot even fulfill your own purpose without surrendering to Krishna. This is what he's implying here. So, therefore, if you become conscious of me, you'll pass over all obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, then you will be lost. And he says that nobody other than me, Krishna is implying here, according to Baladev Vidyabhushan, Krishna says, nobody other than me really knows what's good for you. Sometimes we don't know what's good for us, right? We know what we want, but we don't know what's good for us. And sometimes we don't even know what we want, isn't it? Yes, we're so bewildered. But Krishna, he knows this. And he knows what is to be done, what is not to be done. And, like that. So this is the idea here. Now, has anyone had experience of this? When you surrender to Krishna, he carries you beyond all miseries. Sometimes it doesn't seem like that. Anyone experienced this? Tell me about it.
Well, before the test.
Before a test, he prays to Krishna. Krishna, please let me pass it. Okay. I kind of think that Krishna has more important things to worry about. It's like, one devotee, he was going to a program and they were getting late for the program. So every stop sign, every stoplight, they were getting green lights. And he's saying, oh, this is Krishna's mercy. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so this is the point. If we do what Krishna wants, we will be facilitated. How do we know this? If you do what you're supposed to do, you will always be facilitated. How do we know that? Okay, what is the Guru Sadhu Shastra? Tell me.
We hear from Guru and
You hear what? Give me a specific reference. You have to know Shastra, Prabhupada said, the way that lawyers know their law books. There was a court case in 1976 because many, many young people like me were joining ISKCON. And in some cases, we were underage. I was one of them. It's not legal. So, it's a problem. And ISKCON had a big liability in that way. So I had a hard time joining for that reason, because everybody was saying, no, you're too young. You have to finish school and you have to all this stuff. So anyway, somehow or other, there was a court case because some disgruntled parents didn't like the fact that their child had joined ISKCON. So they invented this charges that these people are kidnapping impressionable young people and brainwashing them. This was the charge. Now, because in 1976, nobody knew anything about ISKCON, or nobody knew anything about Hinduism. At that time, I remember, because I was very eager to become a vegetarian, even at a young age. Even when I was 12, 13, they wouldn't let me do it, my parents, because they actually believed, and doctors even actually believed. Any doctors here? Raise your hand. You don't have to. So even doctors believe that if you don't eat meat, then you'll not get proper nutrition. We were talking about this afternoon. What's the difference between allopathy and Ayurveda in terms of ingestion of foodstuffs? The nutritionists, they always want to emphasize that you need to get all your vitamins and nutrients, right? What does Ayurveda emphasize instead? Need to digest those nutrients and vitamins. So this is the difference. Anyway, so even doctors were thinking like this. And so the Supreme Court, somehow, or this court case made it to the Supreme Court. Now, fortunately, in those days, by the time people made it to the Supreme Court, they had to have some kind of adhikar. And so, when the judge heard the case, he just threw it out of court. But the devotees were very afraid. Why were the devotees afraid? They were facing some sarvani, samsarika dukkhani. All kinds of impediments and obstacles. Think about it. Nobody in ISKCON was out of their 20s, I think. Everybody was just young and inexperienced. And suddenly you're in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Supreme federal judiciary branch of government, and you're supposed to argue. So they were scared. But Srila Prabhupada was not at all fazed by this. In fact, what happened to Srila Prabhupada? He was enlivened. The heavier the challenge became, the more jubilant Srila Prabhupada became. Why? Because he had faith. More than faith, he had experience. And he had knowledge also, which we didn't have so much. So he said, okay, here's what you do. He told us, first of all, you have to learn my books the way as good as these lawyers know their books. He said this. And secondly, he said, you have to put a table in the courtroom when you go to the trial, put all my books on top of that table, and enter this as Exhibit A. Prabhupada said this. So he said, if you just follow these two instructions, anything anybody says, you'll know where to go in the books. You just pull out the book and you read it out loud. Finished. Nobody can say anything. So this is what they did, actually. And the judge threw this out of court because these people are a bona fide religion. They've been doing this for thousands of years. You're just an ignorance. So, this is one example of how this can happen. You want to hear another example? This is from the personal files of Mukunda Datta Prabhu. As I said, I joined when I was very early. Technically, from a legal point of view, I was an underage runaway. I wanted to join the temple. At least 2 or 3 times I tried to join the temple, but they kept sending me home again because I was too young. And anyway, so one time I made it, and somehow or other I went to New York City, midnight flight. I got to New York City at 7 a.m. This was in September of 1976. And it's pretty chilly. All I had to wear was a t-shirt. And I think I even had no money because I was only 15. You can't think when you're that. So, the bus, somehow or other, he took me to the Port Authority out of his kindness. Port Authority is the main bus terminal in New York City, Manhattan. So in the Port Authority, what do you see in 1976 in the Port Authority? I should say rather, who do you see? Hare Krishna devotees. Now you see, if you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you'll see Mahotsaha. Raise your hand if you're Telugu. Other than our host, you're all shy. They're going like this. Yeah, anyway, he's also Telugu, but he's come here only for the purpose of distributing Prabhupada's books, and he's been empowered to do that. You know how many books this gentleman distributed in one day?
More than
5,035 books. One man in one day sold 5,035 books. So talk about overcoming impediments by God's grace. So anyway, I came to the Port Authority, and I saw these book distributors, and I asked them, I want to join your temple. I've been trying so many times, they keep sending me back home. So they gave me the address, and I walked because I had I just figured it out how to get there. I think they gave me directions. So I was there for some time, but with his court case going on, they thought this kid is a hot potato. We got to get rid of him somehow. So they sent me to Gitanagari. And after some time in Gitanagari farm, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Drishtadyumna Swami, and Guru Kripa Swami, they came on a bus. And they were scouring all the ISKCON temples for any available brahmacharis that they could find. Because they wanted to induct them into their Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, where they were distributing Prabhupada's books all over the country. There was a whole fleet of Greyhound buses that had been converted into mobile temples. And each bus had like a half a dozen satellite vans that would, move along with it and move around more easily. So in this way, the devotees were very systematically, this is all the brainchild of Tamal Krishna Goswami. They were very systematically distributing Prabhupada's books. So I joined that Radha Damodar party and just constantly on the move. And he mentioned last night, I was here. Not Holly Springs. I don't think there was a Holly Springs in those days. But I remember we stayed in one Campground of America. Anybody ever seen those places? KOA? They might not exist anymore. But that's where we used to stay. And it was freezing in the winter of 1976. So all the pipes had frozen. Nobody could bathe anything. So Drishtadyumna Maharaj said, there's a swimming pool there. You break the ice. Take a jug and just pour it over yourself. Freezing chlorine at 3 a.m. This is what we were doing. This is the austerity. And then all day we were distributing books. And why am I saying all this? Because throughout this experience, I was going all over the country doing this. I went into so many different places. You see everything when you're distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, because we were walking and we were not like sitting at a table comfortably. We were just approaching anyone and everyone you saw. Jare dekhe tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agyan guru hai tare desh. This is the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whoever you see, somehow or other give him Krishna's instructions. Become like a guru for him. So we were trying to do that. So, one time I saw that I got someone's attention. He was in a car, and I motioned for him to roll down his window. He rolled down the window, and I tried to sell him a book. You know what I saw in his lap when I tried to hand him a book? He had a revolver. I don't know what he was going to do. Sometimes people, sometimes people would worship us. They would bring us into their homes and feed us and just try to do everything that they could to facilitate us. Other times people were throwing tire irons through the back window of our van trying to kill us. I went down a parking lot once, and there was a young girl, maybe my age, and so she seemed to be very interested. And so I was showing her the book, and she was quite responsive. And so I asked for a donation, and she just smiled and said, well, I don't have anything except for me. 15-year-old brahmachari. So, Hare Krishna. So these kinds of, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But what I experienced is that many times we would be arrested because people thought we were a nuisance. Even in Mumbai, when Prabhupada was trying to build Hare Krishna land in Juhu, the neighbors were saying what? Anybody remember?
Yeah.
No, CIA, that's another thing they also said. They actually went so far as to say that the shikhara in the temple, they were actually, radio towers. Talk about wild imagination. So anyway, so we would get arrested sometimes for some trumped up charge like soliciting without a license or something. And, one time they even threw us in jail because we were not maybe cooperating or something. We'd been caught too many times. Now, despite all these experiences and even run-ins with the law, at no point did anyone ever ask me how old I was.
Oh,
At no point did anyone ask for my ID.
oh, that's amazing.
It just doesn't happen like that. First thing when you get pulled over by the, show me some, what's your registration and your license, right? And I was too young to drive even. Maybe I was beneath the radar or something. I don't know, but it was like all the guards in the prison house fell asleep and the doors opened up and Vasudeva just walked out with Vasudeva. So this was my experience. And many, many times it happened like this. Krishna always protected. Because I was always praying to Lord Narasimhadev, don't send me back home again. I want to stay here with the devotees. So anyway, this is one example. I
have a quick question.
Yes.
So how did you know that this is your limit, and from this limit onwards, Krishna is going to save you? Or how
Limit?
I mean,
To what
at
extent,
what
I guess.
extent do we know that we will be saved? And
You have, the extent is,
Faith, unlimited.
the extent is the order of the spiritual master.
Hari Hari.
If you just follow what I said in the beginning, if you just do what you're meant to do, then you will be facilitated by Krishna always, no exceptions. So that's what we were doing. We knew very well Prabhupada wanted us to distribute these books. You know what kept us motivated? To take showers in ice cold chlorine at 3 a.m. We knew that Prabhupada said, I'm always thinking of those boys who are traveling in the vans for me.
Hari Hari.
So anyway, so we just have to do what we're meant to do, whatever Krishna wants to do, and he will facilitate. How is it that nobody ever asked me how old I am even? Now, I should remind you, when I was 15, I looked like I was 12 or 13.
Oh, then there is no chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, by ordinary logic, there should be no explanation for this. It's impossible. But we said this morning, Durghata Ghatana Vidhatri. Krishna makes the most implausible things completely plausible.
Yes.
So, or as we said, fact is stranger than fiction. Really is. I mean, the things that we have had experience in this life, it's somebody told me I should write a book just about my own experience, what to speak of others. I said, there's so many hundreds and thousands of them all over the world. So anyway, this is the point. Krishna wants us to be conscious of him. And how do we do that? That's very easy. He's coming up to this point in just a few verses. In, how many verses from now? About 7 or 8 verses. He says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuro mame vaishyasi satyam te pratajane priyosime. Always think of me. Become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you're my very dear friend. This is Krishna's love. If we surrender to Krishna, if we try to do what Krishna has asked us to do, then we will always be facilitated, we will always be protected, we will progress towards the supreme, our supreme swartha, your own goal. Na te viduhu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. It's described in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. People don't even realize what their own interest is. Everybody wants to be happy only. But you cannot be happy doing the things that we think that will make us happy. Have we experienced this? It's frustrating. Raise your hand if your life has turned out exactly as you expected and planned. Raise your hand. It never, ever happens. Your life has turned out exactly?
Yes, Prabhu.
Really?
Yes. There was never a day in my life like, this is what I wanted to do in the studies, it happened. This is what I wanted to become. By mercy of Lord, it happened.
Okay, there's one of us. Shabash.
What I didn't know that was like I was going to come into Krishna consciousness. This was something like and gift that I was
Okay,
not
so he
even-
caught you. Therefore, you're wrong. It's just like everybody's thinking. They go to Chilakuru to worship Visa Balaji, and they get the visa and they come to America and they think we're free and we have no responsibility. We can do any damn thing we want, including just hit Las Vegas and whatever. What's one thing that they never miss when they come to America? Niagara Falls. Is it not? I won't ask you for a show of hands how many of you have been to Niagara Falls. I've never been to Niagara. I don't care about Niagara Falls. But anyway, that seems to be high on the bucket list for most Indians when they come to America. Anyway, so everybody gets their visa and they come to America and they're thinking that we've made the great escape and now we're free to do whatever we want. And who's the first person they see when they visit Dunwoody, Georgia? Mahotsaha! Hare Krishna! And then they speak to you in Telugu and you're finished. So anyway, our lives never really, usually they don't turn out the way we think, and usually they turn out worse than we want, isn't it? You can't really control this material nature, and we don't seem to learn that very easily. The Mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. Krishna ne kaha Arjun say. This material nature is working under my direction, Arjun. What's the hint? It's now working under your direction. So, this is the thing that we are very, very hesitant to, really embrace. But if we do this here and we do not neglect the Lord's instructions and we do not act out of the false ego means I can do something instead that Krishna doesn't want and get away with it. Never can happen. Never, ever can happen. So the best course of activity is always just surrendered unto Krishna, depend on him in all circumstances, do what he likes, and then try to work with him, try to please him. And then you develop real love. Are you looking for anything else in this world? You can have all the money you want. You can have cars, you can have nice house in Holly Springs. And you can, prestige, health, career, family, happy, everybody just, and, but no love, not love. You can have all that stuff, but you're not going to have love. Any takers? Doubt it. So, we're looking for this pipe dream of, that I can exploit Krishna's resources while I'm evading his authority and still get away with it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The Bhagavad Gita is like a 400-page user's manual, how to live in this world, and uncover your true potential, awaken your dormant love of Godhead, develop that love, and never, this is a love that can never be taken away from you. Shashvatam padam avyayam, Krishna says. It's a position of eternal existence, indestructible existence. Everything else is not like that. Even you get your nice job, you get your career, you get your house in Holly Springs, you get all your good neighbors and everybody, prestige and money and cars and adi, adi, adi. But, how long can you hold on to it? Just for a few minutes, this happiness. We don't know where we've come from, we don't know who we are, and we don't know where we're going. This is the fact of the matter. We have no idea of our spiritual identity. But was there ever a time when you were not conscious? Think about it. You've always been there. You remain now, you've always been there, you will always be. This is you. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. You may not be able to see it. It's like a subatomic particle, right? Any physicists here? We know that subatomic particles exist. You can't see them, but we can see their tracks. So we know that they're there. Similarly, the consciousness always exists. You can't erase that consciousness. You can color it, you can obscure it, you can efface it in so many ways, but you can never get rid of it. Now, along with that consciousness, what else is there? Your eternal dharma. It's called Sanatana Dharma. You can't get rid of that either. It's real. You can efface it, you can erase it, you can mutilate it, you can do whatever you want. Bend, spindle, mutilate, or fold. But you can never get rid of it. So the best thing is to just recognize that I have this eternal identity, and this eternal identity is the locus of all the love that I'm seeking outside. Turn inside. How do we do that? Very easy in this age. We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Nam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, Nataha Parotaropayo, Sarva Vedeshu Trishyate. The Kali Santanana Upanishad tells us, gives this Mahamantra, and it says, these 16 names, they have the potency to wipe out all the contamination of the Kali Yuga, and they can awaken your dormant love of Godhead. So this is what we should be doing. Do we read the purport yet? Yeah, okay. So then, because I ended up on text 65 now. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions or comments on any of this? Yes.
Thank you. Prabhu, when you were sharing your own story, one thing which was evident was unflinching faith. Now, looking back right now from this point, it is very inspiring and then really enlivening. But from your perspective back then, how the heck did you have that kind of faith? Which you are taking so many risks. So, would you mind sharing and guiding us on how we can develop such unflinching faith?
I'm not sure. Not sure I can answer that question. Once I asked my elder godbrother Gopi Paranadana, because I came to have some glimmer of appreciation for the value of empathy. What does empathy mean? Empathy. To feel what another person feels and to know that. And yeah, it's a very valuable thing. Krishna says in chapter 6, text 32, Atmaupam yena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna. Sukham va yadi va dukham so yogi paramo mataha. That means the best of the yogis, in my opinion, he tells Arjuna, is the person who can see what other people see, feel what they feel, understand what they're thinking, like this. I asked Gopi Paranadana Prabhu about this, and he just shrugged his shoulders. He said, it's a gift from above. So, I never had any lack of faith in God somehow or other by Krishna's grace. I've always had that. I don't know where it came from, maybe some past punya or something. But faith is the most important thing, as we were discussing earlier. It's the most important jewel that you have, and you have to protect it at all costs. And you have to nourish it at all costs. And you have to accept your association in accordance with who or what will nourish and strengthen and fortify that faith. It's more important, even, I would say, than love. And that's a strong statement, because it's only through faith that we can really find love. Have to have faith. So, any other questions?
So I had the same question. So does it mean that past lives, karmas, and you were kind of chosen, or you had the mercy of Lord Krishna, and that's the reason there were tons of 15 years old by then just like you, but why did you leave Christianity and then came to have the God? No, I'm just saying that even your parents weren't agree.
Yeah.
So that's, you had a mercy, you had a krupa. So.
It sounds like a statement rather than a question. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
You had asked for where in the Shastra it says that if you do the right thing, you'll be facilitated.
Well, that's here in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshema vahamya. The right thing to do is devotional service. If you do that devotional service, Krishna says, I will cover for whatever you lack, and I will supply whatever you need. So, it's just a question of whether we believe that devotional service is the right thing to do or not. But I'm kind of assuming that we all accept that. Is that okay? Yeah, sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Also, the Charma Shloka. This Jiva Goswami, he employs what he calls ananyopapati nyaya. Means the logic of, that something cannot be otherwise. If devotional service is the right thing to do, then we know that devotional service, if you do devotional service, you'll be facilitated. So there's really no other logical option to choose. And it's, it's implicit maybe, but it's implicit in so many different sources that it's an inescapable conclusion. That's how I see it. Is that okay? Yes.
This verse, the first line says that if you become conscious of me, right?
Achitta sarva durya.
Elaborate on that, like what is this being conscious? Because in devotional service, any of the 9 processes of devotional service, right? So what if one devotee is very much interested in just doing one thing and has a lot of attachment for one of the processes and may not be very much attached in doing the 9 other 8.
Well, actually, there are more than 9. There are 64. If you're looking at sadhana bhakti, there are actually 64 angas, and we should do all of them. But of those 64, Goswami says 5 are completely indispensable. And, it's understood that all of these, they subsume these 9 processes that are given in the Bhagavatam. There's a lot of sets, right? 5s and 9s and 64s. And, this is, it's been said about Hinduism that they're avid classifiers. Just, have to have a system and a number for everything. But it works like that, these 9 processes are automatic. They're just, they permeate this process of sadhana bhakti in particular. And we should be careful to be balanced, because we have to make sure that we're doing all 5 of these things that Goswami especially endorses in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada said this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which he wrote in the 16th century, is the complete science of Bhakti Yoga. And so what are those 5 things? We're performing Sankirtan together, as we did tonight. We're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of sincere devotees, which we're also doing tonight.
When you do this, it's like.
Okay, so I've set off some balloons, it seems, on the screen.
When you do this, balloons.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay.
These computers have far too much independence. Almost as much as cell phones. Your cell phones even nag you, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Worse than a wife. But they're equally seductive at the same time. This is a Amogha Lila. What did he say? This is a cell phone, is the Kali Yuga Apsara. Everyone is seduced by this thing. Yeah, I was in the airport the other day, and I mean, nobody was interacting with other human beings. Everybody's just,
Yeah, that's what it is.
ayo. Anyway, so where was I now? Yeah. So we do kirtan, sankirtan with devotees. We hear Bhagavatam with the devotees and worship the deity and we live in the holy Dham and we worship. But we merged two of them with the devotees. We associate with devotees. Sadhu Sangha, yes. So sadhu sangha is actually the most important thing to do. Why? Because if you get in the association of sadhus, automatically all those others are going to be done.
Yeah.
Sadhus are not doing anything else.
Yeah.
We don't come here to, watch the latest, Super Bowl or whatever is going on in the material world, right? Isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So sadhu sangha is the most important thing. So these 5 things, we should be careful not to introduce imbalance into our devotional service. Maybe you like deity worship only, but if you only do deity worship, not good. Maybe you like to chant, but if you only chant and don't hear, that's a very common disease, actually. It's a very common disease. We have these kirtan programs, actually. Shruta Kirti Prabhu. Anybody know Shruta Kirti Prabhu? My God, brother.
Yes.
He was Prabhupada's servant for a long time. And he was making this observation recently in Vrindavan that, we have this new trend, new fashion, I should say, that we go into these festivals of kirtan, but Prabhupada was not in favor of just doing kirtan. Every program Prabhupada wanted, 3 components must be there. Kirtan, pravachan, and prasadam. And of course, books. So these are the things we have to do like that. Or sometimes we see people that just only gyanis, right? They like to read the books, but they don't like to apply them. So, we have to just be careful to be balanced like that. A little bit like Ayurveda. Anything else? Yes.
Here it says Machita Satatam Bhava. But my situation is I'm Nityam Bhava, not Satatam Bhava. So I do not.
It doesn't say Satatam Bhava in my book. It says Machita Sarva Durgani. Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was your question. Maybe I didn't answer it. Mat chitta ka matlab kya hai? Chitta ka matlab, first of all, what does chitta mean? No. Huh?
Pre-egoistic.
I didn't. Egoistic, no?
Mind without ego is chitta.
No. Chitta. This is a especially prominent term for the yoga school because the yogis, Sankhya and yoga, they divide everything up very carefully and then they try to extract the soul logically. Mind is one component of chitta. Ego is one component of chitta, and there's a third one also. What is it? Intelligence. So together these are called chitta, or they're also called antahakarana. Mind, intelligence, false ego. All 3, Krishna says, have to be fixed on him. Madgata. Madchitta, madgata prana, bodhayanta, parasparam, kathayantas chamam nityam, tushyanti cha, ramanti cha. Madchitta means you just make sure that your mind is focused on me. How do you do that? By bhakti. What is the force that is going to inspire you to fix your mind on anything in this world? You can't. The mind is like as uncontrollable as a wild typhoon. You have typhoons here? Hurricanes. Yeah, we call them tufan in India. Same thing. So, the mind is like trying to, Arjuna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's like, this is not possible what you're asking me to do. And Krishna said, no, it's possible. You just have to keep at it. What does that mean practically? It means you have to be patient. Hote sab kuch theek rahega. But you have to keep at it, and you have to follow the principles, and you have to be enthusiastic about that, and you have to be diligent in it. You have to avoid bad association. You have to keep only satsanga. There's a list of 6 things. I hate to keep saying this. 6 things in Nectar of Instruction. Rupa Goswami tells us, right? 6 positive things, 6 negative things. So, we have to, this is great advice. It saves us so much time if we just listen to what he says and do it with faith. So, Matchitta means to fix your mind on Krishna, which is possible if you just try. And the best way to do that is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Now, what happens if we try to do that alone? Say, just chanting japa. We do, right? But if you're in a kirtan, and there's 100 people there, and everyone is joyfully, and especially if you're dancing like the Bengalis do, then you're not going to space out so easily, right? So therefore, Sankirtana. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar. Those who are intelligent, Bhagavatam says, they mainly do Sankirtana. What is the full verse? Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedhasaha. The really smart ones, he says, they do this Sumedhasa. That's what it means. Really smart. Correct? Yeah, you can't argue. That's what it means. Really smart. Sumedha. Yes. So the really smart ones, they do this Sankirtana Yajna. And who do they worship by performing Sankirtana?
Gaura.
Who is that Gaura? Gaura Anga. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vastav with Krishna himself, according to Shastra. Shastra Yonitvat. You can't just concoct opinions out of sectarian, sentiment. According to the Shastra, which the Goswamis have very carefully studied, Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Sadharma Samsthavakao ityadi. So that on the basis of these Shastric statements, like this one from Bhagavatam, it's clear that the Lord does come in Kali Yuga, although he's in a disguised form. Therefore, it says, Krishna Varnam, he's in the category Varna. What's your Varna? Right? His Varna is Krishna. Krishna Varna. Or Krishnam Varnayati means he's always chanting, because Varnayati means to describe something, no? Either way you look at it, you cannot but come to this conclusion. Krishna Varnam tu Isha Krishnam. But he's not dark. How is he Krishna but not black? How is it possible? Because he's golden. So what is the explanation for this? Radha Krishna Pranaya Prakatir Varni Shapsarasmat Ekatmanava Bidhui Purat Deha Bhedam Gatautau Chaitanyakam Prakatamadana Yadvayam Chaikamaptam Radha Bhava Jyotisavalatam Naumi Krishna Sarupam. He's Krishna himself, but he has disguised himself by accepting the color of Srimati Radharani and the mood of Srimati Radharani. In other words, he's Krishna himself, but he's acting like a devotee of Krishna. Why? It's just like, when you're in school, the teacher is writing on the board, A, B, C, or if you're in India, Ka, Ka, Ga, or if you're Tamil, Ga. They don't have Pavarga like Russ, right? So then this is the idea. So he's not learning his ABCs, or she's not learning the alphabet, right? They're teaching us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here to show us. Sometimes Prabhupada said, how does the mother-in-law teach the daughter-in-law? By chastising her own daughter. Yeah, poor daughters. So in the same way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's acting, in a certain way, and he's teaching Krishna is teaching Arjuna, and by teaching Arjuna, he's teaching all of us. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he's acting as a devotee, but actually he's Krishna himself, but he's acting like a devotee so that we have a clue that when we chant Hare Krishna, we should also cry tears the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. Gauranga bolite hobe pulaka sharire. What is it? Hari Hari bolite nayane bhaveni. Any Bengalis here? Orias, or you call Orias also no. It's close. So Yeah, he says, when I chant the name of Gauranga, Krishna, tears come from my eyes. Asumana Sincha Prema Bedi Boy. Who was it? I think Mirabai Nikah. That anyway, we should cry. This is the point. And that's how we're going to get this clue. If we just studying shastras and formulas and, we see everything just by books, you have to see this. Similarly, Acharya Purusho Veda. Somebody who has an Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Somebody who has an Acharya, he knows something. Because the Acharya teaches by his example. Yad acharati shreshtas ityadi sayat pramanam kurute. Yes. Whatever he does, that's to show us what to do. Look at Srila Prabhupada's life. He is the Acharya, founder Acharya, we say. What was he doing? He was working very hard, even at an advanced age, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. How hard did he work? Yeah, unimaginable, but it's been described. We saw it. If we didn't see it, nobody would believe it, but we saw it. Here's a person, he would go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, wake up just after midnight and translate all these books that we're reading. And this is while he's traveling all over the world 12 times within 10 years, establishing hundreds of temples, initiating thousands of disciples, creating schools, farm projects, meeting heads of state, clergymen, adi. He was a busy bee. Why do I say bee? What does bee mean? Yes, saranga. Sarang, right? They go for the saram. What is the essence? So he was the bhakti bee, bhakti bringa. So this is we're meant to learn from this. That's my long-winded explanation of Madhcitta. Any other questions or any comments? Yes.
You give examples of surrender in US, anything in India, Vrindavan?
Surrender in India? Gopal Krishna Maharaj, whom we recently missed. He created 20 temples in New Delhi alone. These are not small little centers or houses. These are full-size Radha Krishna temples, massive, half of them built from scratch. It takes a lot of work to do that. And this is at the same time, he's also initiating thousands of disciples. He's also traveling around, and his health is so bad in the last year when he was attached to offering Mangalarti every day, wherever he was, anywhere in the world. He would be there for Mangalarti and offer the arati to the deities. You saw the video? In his sleep, he's offering arati. Now, it was, in the last year, shortly before he passed away, I saw him in Vrindavan offering arati. And his disciple had to stand next to him on the altar and move his hand because he wasn't able to do it. That's how hard he worked. He invented the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in India, practically speaking. And, he was also spearheading the book distribution efforts there. Thousands of books going out every day. Anyway, this is the example. He saw that what Prabhupada did, he tried his best to emulate. Same thing with Jayabhadra Goswami, that's Krishna Goswami, so many of them. So we have to try our best to work towards that goal. Is that okay? Anything else? If not, then
Let's say even any question from your Bhagavad Gita classes, if you like to ask anything from the Gita.
kisi bhi vishaya par, you can ask. Okay, everybody's aptaram.
When Krishna was speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, who all were able to hear Bhagavad Gita? Were both the parties able to hear Bhagavad Gita?
Both the soldiers, you mean?
Yeah, both the soldiers.
Well, actually, the Bhagavad Gita was remotely viewed, you can say, because Yeah, through Sanjaya. And Sanjaya was narrating the events, so that they didn't necessarily hear it. But we know of it because it was remote viewed. And so then he was writing it down. Yes, Dave.
Nobody on the armies could hear. It was just the conversation that Krishna delivered.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no, I don't know that they've heard anything. How you can hear it, you would think that he asked him to draw the chariot between the armies. So there's some distance there. They're not going to hear an ordinary conversation, right? This is, a megaphone ke bina.
Krishna, they had a desire that whatever little words comes from whatever conversation comes over here, he expressed a desire to.
Yeah, on his deathbed. We should be like this also. When we're dying, we should want to see this same things that, like Bhishma, we should want to see Krishna. That's why we practice throughout life. Manmana. Avamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. If we give our life to Krishna like this, how is it possible? Here's Gopal Krishna Maharaj lying there in his sleep, and he's offering arati. If that is not samadhi, what do you call it? Even when he's asleep, he's completely Krishna conscious. So what do you call that other than samadhi? I don't know. It looks like samadhi to me. Total absorption. This is the whole point. Now, how can you not go back to Godhead? Look at it this way. Oho bhakiyam stanakala putam jighansaya pyasadvi lebhe gatim dhasruchitam tanonyam kamvadayalum sharanam prajem. The Putana came with the motive to kill Krishna. She was a witch. She came with it. She smeared this kalakuta visha on her breasts, and she gave the little child her breast milk, just like the mother. All the simple Brijavasis were fooled by Yogamaya's arrangement. And Krishna sucked her breast milk, but he also sucked out her life. But he didn't just kill her. He gave her the position of vimukti. What does vimukti mean? Mukti to hai, lekin vimukti kya hai? Yes, vishesh karma mukti. What's above mukti is bhakti. What kind of bhakti did she get? Dhatri uchitam, a position of a nursemaid, a position appropriate for one of Krishna's Gurujanas, Vatsalya. She tried to kill him, but because she just pretended to be a mother, he took that. If that's the way he treats his enemies, then what's he going to do with us? When we're trying so hard to please him, year after year after year. I mean, what kind of person is he? He's a very, very merciful person. Very merciful. We have no idea of mercy, but we can have some idea from Srila Prabhupada's own example, because he's working as a transparent via media for that Supreme Lord. And what did Srila Prabhupada say? There was one devotee in Mumbai. This happened actually a couple of times, but one example in Mumbai. This devotee was collecting funds in the name of ISKCON. And he was a devotee of some sort, but he was putting a lot of money south. This is what happens in India. Anyway, so then, they just, what to do? Time after time after time, this person had been caught. Finally, they just, they didn't know what to do. So Tamal Krishna Goswami said, now, what he's doing now? He's learning from some so-called yogi how to put a coin in one ear and pull it out the other ear. Magic tricks. Just to fool people and get money. And he's doing this in the name of ISKCON. We have to draw the line somewhere, Srila Prabhupada. And, so Tamal Krishna Goswami was of the opinion that we should just kick him out of the temple. And Prabhupada said, we work so hard we shed gallons of our own blood just to bring one person to Krishna consciousness. So you want to send him away. So Prabhupada said, you don't understand that the limit of the mercy of Lord Nityananda is, there is no limit. That doesn't mean that Prabhupada was ready to be taken advantage of. On another occasion, one person joined. He was, he was a thief, actually. He came to steal from us. They caught him. And then they sent him to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada preached to him. And, the boy agreed that he would surrender. And Prabhupada said, we'll not press charges if you surrender to Krishna. And so he did. He tried. He was there for some time. But then one day they found him sneaking out of the gate with a big bag full of other people's possessions.
Oh, Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada said, call the police. He's a thief. It's hard to know that. That's why I said empathy is the greatest thing. You don't know what to do when. This is what we read here, that Krishna says, only I know what should be done and what should not be done. And a person who's taking dictation from Krishna, also, he knows what should be done and what should not be done. We become confused because we don't have that qualification. That adhikar is not so easy thing. Let me tell you a story. In New York City in June, maybe it must have been June or July of 1976, just after I saw Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, Rameshwar, the in-charge of the BBT, flew to New York City with Srila Prabhupada. And there in New York City, they had arranged an interview with the religion editor of the New York Times. New York Times in those days had a reputation. And so then, this is the religion editor. You would think that this person would know about religion. So it was a lady, and she came, and Rameshwar, before the interview, was trying to prep her for this experience. He's trying to tell her that, look, Srila Prabhupada is not an ordinary person. You have to be respectful. It's very, he's an exalted, saintly person. And he could see, Rameshwar, he could see she's very skeptical. She's not taking this. So he was a little concerned about it. But anyway, they went in and the interview began. First thing she asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you know what to write in your books? And Prabhupada nonchalantly answered, Krishna tells me. And Rameshwar was like, she's never going to digest this. So he kind of interjected that, Paramatma is within the heart, and he gives good intelligence to those who are sincere. And then, the adi. And Prabhupada slammed his hand down on the desk hard. And he said, no, it's not like that. He said, Krishna is personally standing next to me and dictating. Everybody in the room was instantly galvanized. The whole atmosphere changed instantly. And this woman was extremely respectful and very grave for the rest of the interview. And so was everyone else. And Rameshwar just tried to find a corner to hide. Sometimes we don't know what we're dealing with here. We just don't know. And this lady was really, she was impressed. She was very impressed. Who will say such a thing? Who on earth has the chutzpah to say such a thing? It's just not possible. So what do you make of it when somebody makes that claim? And he's got all this stuff to back it up. Look what he's done. Look, he's fired up all these people worldwide. Temples, books, book production houses, schools, everything. You're not dealing with an ordinary person. I saw Srila Prabhupada, and as I said, a month or so earlier. And as soon as Srila Prabhupada entered the temple room, this is in Los Angeles. Anybody been to Los Angeles Temple, ISKCON? You may have seen. A couple of people have been here. So Prabhupada came in. As soon as Prabhupada walked in, it was like the whole temple room was illuminated. It was as if the sun god walked in. Everything just shone with his radiance. And just, he didn't do anything just so wonderful, but somehow everything he did was just fascinating because he was just obviously not part of this world. It was very palpable, to me at least. I was so stunned looking at him that, even I knew the words to the song Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari that we sang. I knew the words. But when Prabhupada sat down to start the class and began singing, I was still just so transfixed with his whole demeanor and visage that I could not even remember the words. I couldn't even think I was just completely mesmerized. So this is Prabhupada's potency, and many, many people have told the same thing, that they just, two things were very prominent about Prabhupada. One is that he was just had this effulgence that was inexplicable. It wasn't a physical kind of thing, but it just had this commanding presence that was just awesome. And that's one thing. And another thing is that many devotees said he had such empathy that they felt like he was able to read their minds. But it wasn't mind reading or magic, or he had empathy so deep that it was as good as that. That's extraordinary. Super extraordinary. Super extraordinary. So yeah, this is Srila Prabhupada. So I don't know how we got on this topic, but no, anybody have anything else? Yes.
Prabhu, while Mataji was asking that question, somehow my mind was going on to this point when Bhagavad Gita was being spoken between Krishna and Arjuna, and the other two were like Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra. How about Hanumanji, who was sitting on the chariot? Somehow, I don't know, offhandedly it was coming into my mind. So, are you listening?
Hare Krishna. Okay. Why not? It reminds me, one devotee asked Prabhupada in London. This was a devotee proud of British heritage, to which she belonged, and asked Prabhupada, does Krishna ever speak Bhagavad Gita on the hellish planets? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, this London is hell. And he looked out the window. He looked out the window and he said, yes, this London is hell and we're speaking here. Jai Prabhupada. Okay, so we'll stop here. I have something else to say.
Yeah, one question I was thinking, bro, is like, I think all of us can relate that. We know like from Bhagavad Gita that what we should do, like you mentioned the 5 most important points.
Janami dharmam nacha me pravrti. Janami adharmam nacha me nivritti. Duryodhana ne kaha. Yeah, I know what is dharma, but I can't do it. I know what is adharma, but I can't resist. This is our problem.
Yeah. How do we get that determination?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. You beat your mind every morning with this mantra. And every evening you beat your mind again with the same mantra. And in between you associate with devotees as much as possible. Everything will be fine. What to do? Therefore, Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tata Karma Praratana, Sangatyaga, Satovritti. This is the thing. These are the 6 things that we need. We need to be, enthusiastic. We need to be patient. Oh, do we need to be patient? And we have to follow the principles very strictly. We have to really have conviction of what we're doing. You have to believe in it. What do you really want? We have to have thought about this. And we have to follow the principles rigidly, even the little ones, Prabhupada said, because they actually do make life easier. It's counterintuitive. You think the more you fill your life with rules and regulations, the more difficult and complicated your life becomes. But actually, it makes things very easy. And Sangha Tyaga. We have to give up bad association, mundane. This is the main thing, actually. Just as associating with sadhus is the main positive influence, the main obstructive influence is associated with non-devotees or non-devotional energy. And finally, satovritti. You have to adopt the lifestyle that was followed by your predecessors, the acharyas. These things, if you do these things, you will undoubtedly you'll be successful in bhakti. Okay? Okay, so we'll stop here now. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare